Wow, it's like looking back in the past. I have a degree, undergraduate degree in economics and a master's degree in international business and marketing. My first job was actually at Ogilvy Consulting, when an ad agency was actually trying to look at a very neutral perspective on brand. So not just about advertising, but everything that a brand could do. I spent a year there, and then I actually started out at Landor in San Francisco. I was doing corporate naming and product naming. I did that for 4 years in our San Francisco office. I then moved to Landor, New York, where I was doing brand strategy. I then got transferred to Landor in London, where I got into client services and started working on projects there. I was really lucky because when I was Landor in London, we had two big projects in India. So I got to work on those projects, including Jet Airways. And then in 2007, I had an opportunity to move back to India and start Landor in India. So it was carte blanche. I had worked for 7 years at Landor around the world, and here was a great opportunity to establish Landor in India. Branding has changed tremendously in the last 20 years, even in the last 10 years. If you think back to the 1950s, you might have seen the Mad Men series on Netflix. Brand was all about image. It was a promise that was created in the marketplace. Nobody actually cared if brands delivered on their promise or not. But today, with the advent of the internet and social media, transparency is the norm. So any brand that doesn't deliver a truly fantastic product or an experience can easily be called out. Therefore, today, brand is as much about the experience of the brand than just the promise of the brand. And that has huge implications for how closely connected with the consumer a brand needs to be and how it needs to constantly deliver innovative, relevant, and differentiated experience to a consumer who's constantly changing, distracted, and can be at any touch point. So brand management actually has become very, very complex. It used to be quite simple at one point in time, build an image and then market it in every channel. Today, you have to constantly stay in touch, innovate, be differentiated, and do many things to win the heart and mind of the consumer. Brands have to be very clear about what they stand for. They should have a point of view with respect to the consumer that they're serving and the value proposition that they're creating. So for which kind of consumer, what is the unique, different, relevant promise, and how is that going to be delivered in the market in a very, very seamless way? Once the brand idea has been defined, the entire organization has to rally around relentless execution. So how that brand strategy comes to life in all of the touch points of the brand. So organizations can't work in silos. The entire organization has to be unified to deliver a very seamless customer experience across all of the touch points. Big data and AI is going to give marketers and business owners a lot of information at their fingertips. Now, there will be a deluge of information, but the smart ones will be those who can actually make sense of this information and create some value-added products on top of that. A couple of years ago at Wimbledon, IBM Watson had a very, very interesting value-added service to the commentators where it went through reams and reams and reams of data of tennis players and their performances over decades and served it up to the commentators in a way that they could actually enhance the delivery of their commentary during the show. So that's an interesting use of data. I think we'll see more and more of that, where brands are able to tap into tons of information to serve it up in a very unique and meaningful way. When it comes to creativity as well, I think data will be interesting because it allows us to understand customers very, very deeply at the points where they are showing up in a way in which we can be very relevant and different to them. And so machine learning, AI, all of these things can actually augment the creativity that we have. The tenets of branding haven't really changed. In many ways, how brands need to be executed have changed, but the core tenets of knowing who your customer is, having absolute clarity on what you stand for, that's relevant, that's different, that's meaningful, and then really knowing how to deliver that value at the points where it matters for the customer is really, really critical. Many new age brands chase valuation or chase vanity metrics of likes and shares, etc. But honing in on a value proposition that's really different, that's adding value to the consumer's life and constantly delivering consistently, but also in a differentiated manner is the challenge. That's always been true for brands, and I think new age brands and marketers shouldn't forget those very basic tenets of differentiation, relevance, building esteem for your brand, building knowledge of your brand, and then, of course, energizing your brand constantly. I think we'll see a lot of simplification. We all lead such complex lives. We barely have 8 seconds before which we get distracted. So you'll see that brands are simplifying their messaging, simplifying their offer. Packaging is getting reduced to the bare essentials. That's the way to stand out. And we'll see increasing levels of sophistication in all forms of branding. Another trend I think will become more and more important is the integration of tech and touch. While tech is becoming more ubiquitous, we also know that the value of personal touch, personal experiences has never been greater. So even if you look at retail trends around the world, the new concepts, whether it's the Starbucks Roastery in Japan or the Nike flagship retail concept in New York, they're all a very, very interesting mix of tech and touch. I think that'll become huge as well. And then I think personalization. Brands will be able to truly personalize you, understand how you interact with brands, what you bought before. It will just see an exponential level of personalization going forward. So simplicity, more human touch blended with tech, so the right amount of tech with the right amount of touch, and then personalization, increasing levels of personalization, I think are things that we'll see more and more of when it comes to branding in 2020. Firstly, thank you. I'm hugely excited to be part of this jury. I think it's a fantastic forum to keep an eye on upcoming talent and to see what all the youngsters are up to. So I'll be really looking at the profiles of the participants and trying to see what they've done with their education and their background, what companies they've joined, what missions they've embarked on, what interesting marketing campaigns they've undertaken, what impact that it's had. I'm really fascinated to see what the younger generation is doing, and I'm sure you're going to get the best of the best. It'll be interesting to go through their profiles and their entries and discuss with the judges who the stars of this platform should be. I'm really looking forward to that.